You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So if you get diabetes, are you diabetic for life? Or can you reverse it? There's two schools of thought. Some doctors say no. Once you have impaired glucose metabolism, you have impaired glucose metabolism for life. You're screwed. Other doctors are like, no, absolutely, you can reduce it. You get your weight down. You change your diet. You exercise. You could keep your sugars in control. I like to be of that thinking, too. I'm very optimistic. But impaired glucose tolerance is something that a lot of us get anyway. So I feel like a good number of us always have to be watching. So interestingly, the doctors at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine have said that, yes, you can put diabetes into remission and reverse it. They said that you look at the root cause, you address your stress, exercise, avoid harmful substances. And according to Dr. Padmaja Patter, president of ALCM, says too often chronic disease like type 2 diabetes is managed as a condition that patients must live with indefinitely. We believe remission for type 2 diabetes and many other chronic conditions should be the North Star outcome guiding care. She says that this project reflects a shared vision of moving beyond symptom control towards health restoration, extended quality of life, and more sustainable future for health symptoms. Okay, so, I look at diabetes is where your body doesn't metabolize your sugar correctly and get the sugar in the cells. Remember I told you to look at diabetes like an office with hallways and doors where the mouth is the waiting room, the hallway is your bloodstream, and then the doors are like the cell walls, and then the rooms are your cells. And so with diabetes, the sugar needs to get from the bloodstream into the cells, or needs to get out of the hallway and into the rooms. And you use a key to open the door, and that's insulin. A nurse taught us that in medical school. I went to a diabetic teaching class. They made us as medical students go. It was probably one of the most valuable lessons I got in medical school, of the many. And so if you don't have enough insulin, the sugar isn't coming into the cells. It's staying in the bloodstream, which is why people with diabetes lose weight, because they're not getting fed. And if the sugar stays in the bloodstream, now the bloodstream gets very sticky, could start clogging arteries. The little baby blood vessels in your eyes are now very osmolar because they have a lot of sugar in them. So then your body tries to draw in water, which is why you get very thirsty when you have diabetes, because it's trying to bring in liquid and water to dilute. There's only so much fluid the little baby blood vessels in your eyes can handle, and they start to pop. Also, it's not a very healthy blood vessel if it's full of sugar, because then nutrients and other things and proteins can't get to where they need to go. Also can affect your kidneys. You start to urinate a lot when you have diabetes because your body's trying to dump out the extra sugar, which is why it wants more water, because it's like, we got too much in the bloodstream. We got too much sugar in the bloodstream. And then, unfortunately, the excess sugar starts to really work a number on you. And so we need to increase either your insulin or decrease the insulin resistance. What causes insulin to resist? What causes the insulin to not be able to open the door? Something pushing against the door, like fat. In a way, that's how I look at it. And so we need to lube up those keys. Exercise can lube up those keys and make them more sensitive. And so, they say that, many individuals, might not be exercising enough, may be obese, may have chronic stress. A lot of times there's also genetics. Many type 1 diabetics, they just don't make enough insulin. Something happened to their pancreas. Insulin is made in the pancreas, either a virus or genetics. And we saw COVID cause people's pancreases to not make enough insulin, and many people became diabetic. So sometimes we have to give you insulin. Sometimes we have to decrease the insulin resistance by having you lose weight or give you medications like metformin or other medications. And then, of course, we want to decrease the amount of sugar going into the waiting room, right, or into the mouth. So we have you cut on your diet. But many medical officials are saying we really, really got to look at the crap we're eating. Experts at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology looked at 86,000 participants aged between 20 and 79. This was through the years 1984 and 2019. And they confirmed diabetes by questionnaires as well as blood glucose readings. And they found that people who are susceptible to diabetes are now developing the disease more so. And we think it's because they're sitting more, they're eating unhealthy, ultra-processed foods, they're not maintaining a healthy weight, they're in higher pressure working environments, they're not sleeping well, their stress levels. One 2024 study found that getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night could increase the risk of type 2 diabetes by 16%. Now, I know there's been studies saying if you take a nap in the middle of the day, you're at higher risk for diabetes. It's not the nap that's causing you to get the diabetes. It's the fact that you need the nap because maybe you're not sleeping well at night. So that could be what's going on. Another thing is they think these fizzy drinks or these diet sodas are also triggering type 2 diabetes. Aspartame can cause an increased risk of diabetes. So they want you to, they actually enrolled adults in an 800-calorie plan, soups and shakes diet, and they help people lose weight. They help reverse the condition. The thing is whatever diet you go on, it has to be something you could stick with. So the issue that people have is, well, I'm just going to start fast. I'll only eat one meal a day. And then all of a sudden they have a vacation or a wedding or something, and they gain all their weight back. So you got to come up with a diet that you could stick with, something that's a lot more practical and realistic for you. And then make sure you look at sugar as a bad thing. If you get cancer, we don't want you to have sugar because sugar feeds the cancer. So it's amazing how a lot of people are able to look at cancer as it's toxic and evil. We need to do that. And mind you, listen, you have a bowl of M&Ms, I'm salivating. I mean, I'm like, okay, I got to have some M&Ms. Not the peanut kind. I like the ones that are just chocolate. Don't be messing up my chocolate with nuts. I don't want anything interfering with the flow of chocolate in my mouth. But that's not healthy. All right? So can you reverse and keep diabetes at bay? Absolutely. It's going to take a lot of work, though. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys. We're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So, discrimination in jobs has been fortunately thwarted by a lot of laws. Okay, you can't, not hire somebody because of their race, creed, color of their skin. Although there's been a lot of reverse discrimination going on, but America is working to combat any sort of discrimination where all of us have equal opportunities for a job based on merit, not, how we look or who we know or who we're related to, or, if we're privileged or not. Just look at our merits. Whoever is the best person for the job gets hired. Well, one thing that always seems to slip through the cracks is obesity. And I remember hiring a nurse, and the nurse said, "I'm so grateful you hired me because nobody else will." And I go, "But you don't have a criminal record. You have a great CV. Why?" She goes, "Because I'm fat. Nobody wants to hire a fat nurse." And I'm like, "You're not fat. You're curvy. All right. We got some curves. Okay." And, with weight, because she wasn't my patient. With my patient, I have to be very medical with them. But this is a nurse who was like, and she wasn't morbidly obese, but she was heavy. And I'm like, it's a shame. And I go, "You really think that's what it is?" She said, "Yeah, people think that fat people are lazy, that they won't work." And by the way, she was the most unlazy worker ever. I mean, she was amazing. She would always get up and moving and all that. And it was the very first time I remember asking my husband, I go, "Really? People do that?" And he's like, that, he goes, he knows that a lot of companies might, based on looks, like, when you walk into a gym, you have somebody who's, they'll have gorgeous people up front so that you feel like you'll look like them. I mean, we know that companies will manipulate trying to have models up front. But with that, it was the very first time and then I talked to other doctors, and some of them were like, "I got to admit, the skinny ones move a lot more than the overweight ones." And I'm like, well, the overweight ones have back pain and knee pain and other issues, and that's why they're overweight. And so if you want to get more bang for your buck, you want to hire somebody skinny. And I'm like, no, I don't like that idea, because I got to tell you, every nurse that I have, I mean, when I gained weight, I still bust a move. So weight has been a factor for a lot of people as it pertains to working, which is why a lot of people like remote, because then nobody sees how they look. Oh, according to Air India, or I should say, according to the New York Post, Air India is looking at weight. And this is a concern. They say that it's a major airline that is rolling out new cabin crew fitness policy, and those who fail will risk going without pay. According to New York Post, Air India officials are carrying out body mass index checks on its aircraft staff from May 1st. This is according to local media NDTV. They are cracking down on those who do not report a healthy range. A BMI, they want between 18 and 24.9. If you're over 25, you're overweight. If you're over 30, you're obese. If you're over 35, you're morbidly obese. They want everybody under 24.9, between 18 and 24.9. If you are under 18 BMI, you are considered underweight and will have to be medically cleared. They will be removed from any flight rosters until they get clearance, and then may not get paid until they get medical clearance. Let's say you're overweight. Let's say you're between 25 and 29.9. You'll still have to have an exam before getting cleared to fly. If you are obese, over 30, you are going to be immediately grounded. This is in India. They say those who fail the new fitness policies will have 30 days to provide an acceptable score. According to New York Post, staffers that continue to report readings outside the acceptable range will be either given caution letters or disciplinary action. And the new policy is applying to everybody becoming a stewardess or cabin crew. I don't know if it extends to pilots. And Air India apparently is not the only one to roll out a controversial measure. So here's the thing. I don't know of any other airline doing the wait. I know a lot of people are complaining about Southwest and the, grab a seat, first come, first serve. But plus size travelers are now having issues because they have to book 2 seats, whereas trying to get a row all to yourself. Or 2 seats together, even though everybody wants it, whether you're overweight or not. So it's interesting that an airline in India can get away with this. Now, is it because they're saying, look, we have weight issues with the plane? We are limiting our bags to no more than 50 pounds. Our passenger, but then are you also going to limit the passenger weights? I mean, I wasn't there an airline overseas that was weighing their passengers? And if you weighed a certain amount, you had to pay for 2 tickets. I forget which one that was and if that still stuck. Now, on another end, we don't want people getting an eating disorder. But let's say you are about 5 or 10 pounds too high. This might motivate you to, shave off that extra 5 or 10 pounds. If you have been gaining, one thing about weight gain that throws me is how, because this happened to me. I knew I was gaining weight and nothing I could do could tell. We checked my thyroid. We made sure I was taking pregnancy tests. I'm like, I've never seen the weight go on like this. Well, what happened is it really correlated with dropping estrogen levels. It was weird. It was like overnight I gained weight. It was crazy. But for most of us, we see it happening and we go, well, just a pound, just another pound. Well, I could buy a bigger size of pants. And I'm not saying I support this at all. I don't like the idea of people getting fired because of their weight. But I don't think a lot of us weigh ourselves. We don't want to depress ourselves. We don't want to know our weight. We lie about it. We think, and then all of a sudden, we think we're one way, and then we go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, you're 180 pounds. No. 108? No. I'm 155. No, you're not. Well, when did that happen? So being aware of your weight is a very important health metric. But, is that really up to the employers? It should be up to the doctors. But see, you used to have a doctor on your butt. Your primary care doctor was on your butt. You would come in for your, physical or follow-up, and they're like, you gained weight. What's going on here? We got to get that holiday weight off. But now the average person only sees a doctor once, and then it's a completely new doctor the next time. Or they do online telemedicine. But it is something that overweight people have always said, that they will be discriminated against. People don't want fat. They think you weigh too much. They think you're lazy. They think you're not going to move too much. And I'm telling you right now, that is a very, very misguided stereotype. But unfortunately, that's what's affecting people now. Nowadays with the ADA, there's a lot of jobs where they ask if you have a disability. And so if you do have a disability, now it might be able to get you a job if jobs are trying to, check the boxes with DEI. Saying, look, we are hiring people who are disabled. So we have a position for them. And so you can't accuse us of not hiring people who are disabled. And so now it is allowing some people to, but just because somebody's overweight doesn't mean they're disabled. They can still function and do well. So it'll be interesting to see what this airline does, if other airlines are going to follow. But if airlines are really worried about fuel costs and they don't want extra weight or poundage by their crew, they might do that. Not to mention the aisles are really small. And so, I've been on planes where the flight attendant was large. I had no problem with it. They were really nice. They were great. I didn't care. Even if they had to lean in on my row, I didn't mind it. I mean, again, they're friendly. They're cool about it. Maybe it's because I'm a doctor and I understand. But you do have companies out there that want to look, that want to have, what company is that? Is it Singapore Airlines? There's some commercial where they show the stewardesses, they all look so slim and like models, and they think it's going to attract you to their airline. Now, mind you, nice flight attendants help. I've been on flights where some of these flight attendants are really mean. But I appreciate what they do because it's not easy dealing with us travelers. But if you don't have the look, like age discrimination, there's still age discrimination. That's a lot easier to prove than overweight discrimination, believe it or not. But, because people think if you're older, you're not going to work. Until they realize these Gen X's and baby boomers have amazing work ethics. 1-877 Dolly, don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret.
Powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So we have some breaking news. An American journalist has been kidnapped by an armed group in Baghdad, according to Iraqi officials. This is being reported by Daily Mail. Shelley Kittleson is a freelance reporter. She's American, but she's based in the Middle East and Afghanistan, and has been abducted by a group of unidentified men near her hotel in the Iraqi capital on Tuesday. The Iraqi Interior Ministry confirmed that a, quote, foreign journalist was kidnapped by unknown individuals. Security forces are pursuing the perpetrators. They said the pursuit resulted in the interception of a vehicle belonging to the kidnappers, which overturned as they attempted to flee. The journalist was reportedly taken near the Palestine Hotel on Al Sadoun Street in central Baghdad. No group has claimed responsibility yet, but people are fearing that Iran could be behind the kidnapping. They say Kittleson was not in the vehicle intercepted by Iraqi security forces. Right now, her whereabouts are unknown. She has written for AI Monitor, Foreign Policy, The National, and she has reported across Iraq and the Middle East. And she was in Baghdad to cover the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. They say Iraqi security forces, but she's freelance. Iraqi security forces are said to be continuing search operations and questioning the detained suspect as part of efforts to locate the journalist. Kidnappings of journalists in Iran are often linked to militia activity. And she has reported on that. In September, Israeli-Russian researcher Elizabeth Surkov was released after being abducted by Iraq's pro-Iran faction, Kataib Hezbollah. Iraq's Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani said her release was a culmination of extensive efforts exerted by our security services over the course of many months. Apparently, Surkov disappeared in March 2023 while on a research trip in Baghdad. The Israeli government announced months later she had been kidnapped by the Shiite group Kataib Hezbollah, or Hezbollah Brigades. And she had entered Iraq using a Russian passport, quote, at her own initiative pursuant to her work on her doctorate and academic research on behalf of Princeton University. That's according to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And so luckily she was released, but now we have another female reporter that unfortunately has been abducted, and we are obviously concerned. What these reporters go through and the risks that they take is unbelievable. And we're grateful for the pictures that they get and the videos they're able to capture and what they're able to obtain, but they put themselves at risk, and it's we don't realize what we're looking at, how much blood, sweat, and tears and risk went into that. So Godspeed, and we pray that she could get back safely. The Michigan Temple attack that happened. Many of us felt that this was terrorist related, obviously. And the FBI said it was a Hezbollah inspired act of terrorism. As you remember, a large Michigan synagogue, a car rammed into it with explosives and wanted to shoot and murder multiple Jews in the school. And it was undergoing a preschool class at the time. Ayman Mohammed Ghazali is a U.S. citizen originally from Lebanon. He brought an AR-style rifle used in the attack on March 9th, 3 days before he rammed his truck loaded with gas and fireworks into Temple Israel Synagogue in West Bloomfield and opened fire. That's according to Jennifer Runyon, the FBI special agent in charge in Detroit. Now, Ghazali, 41 years old, killed himself after he exchanged gunfire with security. Luckily, security was there on site and was able to neutralize him. He had difficulty getting out of his truck. The truck got stuck inside the building. Thank God nobody else was killed. But according to the FBI special agent, they said, based on the evidence gathered to date, we assess this attack to be a Hezbollah-inspired act of terrorism. 10 minutes before the attack, Ghazali sent a video to his sister, who was in Lebanon, and who officials did not believe saw it until an hour after the attack. And the translated message was, this is the largest gathering place for Israelis in the state of Michigan in the United States. He says, I have booby-trapped the car. I will forcefully enter and start shooting them. He said, God willing, I will kill as many of them as I possibly can. Now, investigators have found no evidence of any co-conspirators, and Ghazali's sister at one point asked him to stop sending her messages. Now, Hezbollah is a group that is backed by Iran. It's based in Lebanon, has carried out attacks against Israel. The U.S. has designated Hezbollah as a foreign terrorist organization since 1997. Israel's military has launched airstrikes against Hezbollah following the start of the war in Gaza. Ghazali claimed it was because he lost family members in an Israeli airstrike, and that's why he wanted to kill Israelis in America. He had searched for pro-Hezbollah materials online since January and then began planning the attack on March 9th. And so, we're looking at this and we've been warned that there are, terror cells and cells that have been kind of deputized and woken up and springed into act, and it's a concern because we feel like, all right, well, the Iran war might wrap up soon, and there's hopefully less of a nuclear capability of Iran, but unfortunately, terrorism, Iran still has the huge, their economy isn't just oil, it's also terrorism, and it's a very, very active economy for them. Just like what we see with cartel. And so, unfortunately, if they have individuals that are already out there and dispersed, and they, unfortunately, they could still cause harm. And one thing that people are very concerned about from a security standpoint is hostages. When Hamas, invaded Israel and then killed 1,200 people, raped, burned them alive, shot them while raping, beheading babies, and did all that, they had direct orders to get hostages because they were bargaining chips. And so one concern that we want to make sure Americans are aware of is Americans could become hostages even in our own country. And so, you don't want to travel to areas that are unsafe. But if there are terror cells and there are individuals, it looked like this Ghazali guy might have acted alone. But if you have individuals that aren't acting alone, they might find getting a hostage to be very advantageous to them. So be aware, be vigilant, and understand that even though we're in the best country ever, and America is amazing, we are among people that don't like Americans, that want to continue mayhem, and it's a shame. Knowing that the September 11th. Attackers were here and were, and I saw one of them at an urgent care. Who knew that they were spending so much time in America planning and plotting, getting medical care, going to strip clubs, and they were among us. And then they decide to do one of the most horrific attacks on American soil. even with Pearl Harbor. We had people who, again, were on site that could sadly help, and it's not something that we should ever forget. And so, and I talked to many people. And look at what happened with Minnesota and the Catholic school and the church. We're in Easter week. We're in Passover. A lot of people are concerned. But I can't speak for everybody. But we're ready. One of my children was out hanging out in Utah, and somebody had asked one of them if they were Jewish, and he had like a look of death in his eye. He goes, "Are you? Tell me if you're Jewish." And my son's friends, and they were like, "Let's get out of here. This guy looks like he wants to start a fight." Really? I mean, we are surrounded by individuals with hate. And I was blown away. This is, we taught our kids about what my relatives went through, with the Holocaust, but for them to actually see, that there's hate in people's eyes as it pertains to, a religion that they were born into, it's frightening. So just be aware and be vigilant. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I don't know how to word this, but I am wondering if crowdfunding is going to soon take a hit. And if there was anything you needed crowdfunding for, to maybe do it now. Okay, I know that's kind of, this is just a feeling I get, and I'm usually not wrong with these feelings. I've always thought that, God forbid, there's ever an issue, I could always rely on the goodness of people. I could rely on, worst case scenario, I could always do a GoFundMe. But I'm noticing things are kind of changing. And there's a lot of people starting to now doubt some of the intentions, or they think the crowdfunding is being overused. And I don't think that. I think people who are needing it really need it. But once that sort of, shall we say, reputation changes, it affects a lot of the innocent people who need it. And so one thing I'm starting to see with a shift is people's attitudes towards it as celebrities have been using crowdfunding. Now, I completely understand why. Eric Dane died. James Vanderbeek died. And apparently, GoFundMe campaigns were established to help their families financially. I think it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I don't know how rich Eric Dane was or James Vanderbeek, but Eric Dane had ALS. James Vanderbeek had, I believe, rectal cancer. And so undergoing all those medical costs is very devastating for the family. And so many of them do not have the riches that these actors might have at once had. I think the woman who played, what was her name, Valerie, the one who played Miss Tessmacher in Superman with Gene Hackman, I believe when she passed, she not a lot of finances at the time. These stars, the money they made, we think that they're rich and they're always going to have money coming in, but if they don't continue to work, no. Well, now we have another actor who died. He was a part of Blue Bloods. I didn't watch that, but he's a comedian, Alex Duong. He appeared on 3 episodes, and he sadly died Saturday after having, and this is rare, alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. A rhabdomyosarcoma, alveolar, it's a cancer of the smooth muscle in the lungs. It's a very rare tumor, but very aggressive. And he died. So a GoFundMe has now been started by a friend, Hillary Steele. It was actually started before he died to help him get care and the right diagnosis. And then now it's to help his wife and I believe have a baby. And so the GoFundMe, I think, has like a $200,000 goal. And so I think celebrity Jeff Ross has been helping, etc. And it's just heartbreaking to see people die. But there's a lot of discussion of movie stars and celebrities who are perceived rich to be using GoFundMe. And a lot of middle income and lower income individuals are starting to feel a little protective of the crowdfunding. Now, as far as I'm concerned, anybody who needs help should be able to get help. And if you want to help somebody and you want to donate, if Jesse Jackson needed help, if Viggo Mortensen needs help, if people need help, God forbid, Jesse Jackson may rest in peace. If you want to help support his family because his family may need funds, I think it's a beautiful thing. So I think it should be our choice. But like I said, the other piece that's happening is people are looking at these things as, well, wait a second. The more they're being used, if they're being abused, and I don't think they're being abused, and I don't think these celebrities make the money we think they do, but if people are feeling that that's what's happening, then they think that when they say, okay, well, here, I'm doing my GoFundMe. See, GoFundMe used to have that sort of characteristic or reputation of it is for people in dire need. For you to ask for help and go and do a GoFundMe. Somebody like me that's Gen X, we have a pride where, you don't, like, I remember when our house burned down, and I was in the 8th grade. And so the teacher wanted to hold a clothing drive for me and the family. And when I told my parents how nice it was that the teacher did it, they go, no, we aren't going to take any charity. No. We don't take charity. We don't take charity. It was this sort of thing. And we were poor. Our house had burned down and the insurance wasn't doing much. But it was, because once you do it, it's, and I think you should be able to take help. We've, I think, grown to not have that sort of thinking. But the GoFundMe and these crowdfundings where you have somebody in dire need and let's all chip in $5, $10, $20. Let's all help this person out. And so once you start to extend that to celebrities and celebrities' families, people are asking, well, what money do they have? I thought he had a series. I thought he was making this kind of money. I thought he was, so GoFundMe went from, being just for, people in dire need, and you're trying to help them get through that meal or get through that medical care, to now, let's be there to support the families and be there to support, which is a beautiful thing. I think GoFundMe is a fantastic idea, but it's starting to change the reputation of it. And when that happens, you have less people when I heard there was a GoFundMe, when it first came out, I would donate right away, because if there's a GoFundMe, that means that person needs help. Now, everybody needs help, but now it has a much different, now everybody and their mother seems to have a GoFundMe out there. So I'm a little concerned about that, because for those of you going, if God forbid I get cancer and I really need help, I'm going to go through GoFundMe. It might be harder to do. And I'm not saying go and do a GoFundMe when you don't need it, but it's just something, to look at. And as I said, I read an article and I kind of know what some celebrities make and their costs, but there was one actress who made $1 million a year, and she lived in New York. And I know people made fun of this article, but she actually broke down where that money went. And she didn't have much in her savings, because by the time she finished rent, taxes, she made the $1 million, but with taxes, at least 40% was gone. And then of that 600 left, it went to her, her rent, which was very high, her transportation, her makeup, things she had to do for work, clothing, things like that, and then security. And by the time, she's like, you burned through that easily. And I'm like, $1 million? Move to Tulsa, live in a beautiful home in Tulsa. But I get it. If you're working in New York, you got to live in New York. Or I'd live in Jersey, or I'd live upstate or something just to make it cheaper. But so I understand that. And then I forget if it was, was it Odell Beckham Jr. who was talking about financial literacy, where many players don't get that. And so once they do get their contract, they give money to their mom, or they buy their mom a house, which is beautiful, but then the money goes. So these stars lose their money. And same thing, with us. We might get a job and go, okay, all right, I got a job and I got a contract. Okay, I could relax a little bit. See, me, I've always lived my life as everything's temporary, because I went to 12 schools. Anytime I got attached, my folks moved. I loved the house. It got burned back in apartments. I mean, it was just one thing after another. So I never get attached, or I never get complacent. But for a lot of people, they want to relax a little bit. They go, I made some money. A very good friend of mine, after he graduated medical school, finally got his first paycheck after working so hard, and then he bought an Audi. And he, spent, and he ended up filing for bankruptcy after the first 2 years. And, it's that we weren't ready for that. I was happy with my Chevy Chevette. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.